Hello, everyone. Welcome to this edition of the AI Monetization Podcast. I'm Binny, the co-founder of Project Pro. As you know, we speak with industry leaders on what business outcomes they are seeing with AI. No one better to talk to us about that today. We have with us Jayney Howson. Jayney is the Senior Vice President at ServiceNow, where she's the global lead for learning and development. ServiceNow is obviously the $10 billion revenue, $200 billion plus market cap software company. Jayney has over 2 decades of experience across marketing, sales, and talent development. In her most recent role previously, Jayney championed over 30,000 plus team members across sales and customer success as a senior vice president at Salesforce. Jayney, thank you so much for doing this. It's a complete honor to have you on the show.
It's an honor to be here. Thank you, Binny, for having me.
You're welcome, Jayney. Jayney, to begin with, I'm really curious as you kind of mapped your career from marketing, sales to learning. What kind of inspired some of those choices, and what stays the same and what is not the same compared to your sales career and the learning career?
When it's an interesting career because I feel like it's of three parts. It's really a marketing and then a sales and then into learning and development. But there is a consistent thing, and that's that human beings are so critical throughout that. I always say as a kid, I just loved making people fall in love with things. I wanted to get into advertising because I love the magic of the storytelling, and you didn't think you wanted something at the beginning and you did at the end. And that's really where I got into marketing. And I love watching humans come alive through experiences, and that happened in marketing so much. And then in sales, I was like, I really want to get closer to the business. I'm seeing all these incredible people. I really want to see the direct impact versus marketing, which is more indirect. And then when I was in that space, I had this real kind of pivotal moment in my life where I was working in a part of London. We were setting up, I was in food and drink at the time. So we were doing this cash and carry, like a food market. And we set this up. We had millions of pounds to set this place up. We had all the best sellers in the industry come and set up this place, and it completely failed. It completely failed because the people that we were using to sell didn't reflect the market that we were working in. So we sent those people back to base, and we recruited from the market, from the restaurants in the town that we were selling in. And what I saw happen was people who had no sales experience, because we gave them a great piece of technology to sell with, and they had passion. They were incredible. They were just incredible. I just watched this amazing talent come to life. And I thought, isn't this amazing that these people can, because they can build these great relationships, they can do these great things. And I just kind of fell in love with the fact that you can watch talent develop like that. And then I moved into technology from that, and I was like, I'm going to see all of these great salespeople. And it turned out that very few of them were as good as the people that I saw back in this food market in Croydon. And what I realized is that talent is equally distributed, but opportunity isn't. And I wanted to be really part of that change. I wanted to make sure that I could take the experience of marketing, which is the best foundation for storytelling, sales, which is the best thing you can get in human interaction, and then the talent, so we could have a better opportunity for everybody, and as my kids grow up and things. So that's how I ended up moving into learning, essentially. And I had a really good opportunity to get there at my previous company, and now here at ServiceNow.
That's fantastic. It's very, very inspirational. And as you saw the local sales team and the sales in the cash and carry, and then previously at Salesforce, and now motivating people at ServiceNow, what do you think is kind of the common DNA or denominator of people who just come alive in these roles? Is it them, or how much of it is them, and how much of it's stuff you do from outside to them?
Yeah, such a great question. Well, I mean, humans are organisms, and organisms that are driven by survival. So we are always ways to grow. So we are hardwired through millions of years of evolution to make sure that we succeed and grow. So I think what's fascinating is if you give humans the right environment, it's like a great plant. They will grow, because that is how we're motivated. And actually, what often happens is we get in the way of that growth. And that's usually because people don't understand what success looks like, how they're going to be rewarded. They get confused, they get discombobulated with different priorities. So I, I think it's innate in humans to grow and develop. So actually, I think that success is down to us as humans. I think where I've seen success fail or not is to do with the environment that you create around those people to be successful. But I think like we hugely underestimate humans and ourselves, really do believe that. And I think we sometimes try and make things too easy for people. And actually, we're all better just outside our comfort zone and being growing and stretching in that environment.
That's pretty profound, which is you're basically saying get out of the way. Give them the right environment where their
Yeah.
strengths show up and just get out of the way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
And complete. And one of the things to be really conscious of though is actually when we talk about AI, and I'm sure we'll go into this now, is so much of the conversation is about driving human productivity, but actually many of the headlines are actually creating the opposite effect in humans because we're creating that environment where they don't necessarily want to stretch themselves. So it's a really fascinating place to be right now.
Yeah, yeah. Before we go into AI and technology and just staying on the topic of humans and organisms and evolution, is a very interesting topic. Jayney, so I was curious, since you managed very large teams in sales and marketing before you came into talent management, right? How do you trade off between you find a person, they're supposed to do a job, but then they have these natural strengths which kind of tend towards something else? How do you trade off between getting them to do that job versus aligning them to a role that their strengths are the company needs versus what they're good at? How do you do that?
Oh, that's an amazing question. So I think sometimes it's not going to work. I think that's something sometimes really we struggle with, but it might be an excellent person, but not an excellent fit. And that's okay. So that's number one thing to say is sometimes you're going to have to make that call. Also think though, sometimes as managers, as leaders, we forget how to manage, and manage means creating very, very clear expectations. It's like being a parent. It's not necessarily, there's a very famous child psychologist called Dr. Becky in like the Instagram.
Yeah, of course.
She talks
I love her Instagram posts. Yeah.
I love it. And she talks about our job is not to make our children happy, it's to create an environment where we can be. And I think that as a leader, it's the same. Like, how do you create an environment where people know the rules and then they can just make it like decide whether they want to win in it? Because we want to win, as I said, like that innate human ability to survive and win is so strong. If you create the environment for them to do that and the boundaries, then I think it usually works.
Yeah, that's a fantastic point. And I'm a huge fan of Dr. Becky as well. I follow her there, and I kind of use a lot of her stuff with my 6-year-old, and it really works. So
Me too. Me too.
I really like Dr. Becky's. She's got this whole safe and happy boundary.
Yes.
Right, and that's really good.
Yeah, I heard her speak at a conference a couple of weeks ago too about leadership and how you can take the philosophies of everything you talk about with child psychology and developing your children into developing leadership. And so much of it is true. Like it's like you said, that there is a space between safe and happy. And is it our job to make people happy, or is it to create an environment where they can be highly successful?
Right. Yeah, very interesting. And in your current role at ServiceNow, Jayney, what is kind of your top priorities, your mandate that you kind of focus on?
Yeah. So I'm incredibly lucky. I work for an incredible company with an incredible product, and we are the AI platform for business transformation. But in order to drive that business transformation, we need a human transformation at the same time. And I'm responsible for making sure that we have the skills in our ecosystem, both internally and externally, to make sure that we can bring that vision to life. And we think more than that, actually. We think that the platform and the technology isn't just a AI tech transformation, it's the opportunity for a human renaissance if we do it right. And I work for an incredible leader, Jackie Kenny, who's our Chief People and AI Enablement Officer, which means that how do we enable our people to really take advantage of this tech revolution?
Okay, very, very, very exciting space to be in. I really liked how you positioned this, saying human renaissance. Could you kind of double click on that? Like, if done right, what will this free us up to do? I mean, what will be the new generations of painters and sculptors, and who will those people be?
Yeah. Well, I think we don't know. I think there is so
Yeah,
much still trying to discover, but we all believe and we all hope it creates a world of work that's more human. Where all
yeah,
that that's been tying us up, all that administrative work, all that repetitive work can be taken away with AI. But that does mean us leaning into it, adopting it, understanding it, being part of its future. Um,
yeah,
and I think actually we're in a really fascinating space because not only we need to train people to use AI, use our technology, we also are creating that technology for the future. So we're
right,
responsible for shaping that future of what that will look like. And we hope that it's more human. So the learning and the skilling is more predictive, it's more personalized, it's more relevant, it's more personal, and it's delivered in context at the point of need. And if those things are true, then we believe it will take in time, it will remove those, like I said, repetitive tasks and give us space to do more human, deeply human work where we can make real
yeah,
impact.
sure. And how does the launch of the ServiceNow University fit into that strategy? Could you maybe help us understand what it is and what it
Yeah.
is accomplishing?
So absolutely. So ServiceNow University is our single place for all our learning and development. So for
Mm,
everybody, for our employees, for our partners, for our customers, we also have what we call learners in the wild. So they're people we're still out there but are going to come to us soon, and we bring them into the ecosystem. And
mm,
it's the platform, so it's the technology, but it's also all of the skilling programming around that. So everything that is involved in skill acquisition or knowledge acquisition and skill development for ServiceNow is under ServiceNow University. And
mhm,
then the big thing is it's a platform and all of the curriculum on that platform. So we have at servicenow.com/learning or ServiceNow University, whichever people search for, everybody can access that thousands of courses for free. And
mhm,
those courses are available across all disciplines to do with ServiceNow and also adjacent things like agentic and AI, for example, leadership development, those sorts of things. So
mhm,
those courses are available. But the beautiful thing about ServiceNow University is it's powered by AI and inspired by the science of play. And the powered by AI bit is really important because it means that we can create instead of ServiceNow University, we create the University of Binny. So in the
mhm.
University of Binny, it looks very different to the University of Jayney because it understands your skills, your aspirations, your previous experience, and builds the curriculum for you. So it's highly, highly personalized.
Mhm. Interesting. And you also mentioned the playground. Could you just help us understand
Yeah.
what is the playground, and yeah, what does it do?
Yeah. Well, it kind of links back to that what we were just talking about earlier. So
Yeah.
I'm no neuroscientist, but I'll talk about it for a second. So it's really interesting what happens in our brain when we see the headlines that we're seeing at the moment. So there's tons of headlines about fear of job loss. There's lack of clarity, loads of
Mhm.
ambiguity. There is unknown futures. People have less time than ever. All of those things trigger us to go into a fight or flight mode, which all of us will have heard of. What that does is it takes all of the energy from your prefrontal cortex and back to a part of your brain called the amygdala. And what happens in that state is we do one of three things: we run away, we fight it, or we freeze. And we're seeing that happen in the world today. So despite the fact that we're promising utopia of productivity with humans, we're actually seeing
Mhm.
the opposite happening. We're seeing issues with the performance crisis. We're seeing reductions in performance often in places. We're seeing low adoption in employees in certain areas. And it's pretty scary because you're like, we've promised this great new world, but how do we get
Yeah.
people into the technology? Now, the
Mhm.
antidote, that state that I just called is called the fear state. And the antidote to a fear state is the play state. Because what happens if you're given an environment where it's playful, and that's an
Mhm.
environment you kind of lean into exploration. So imagine your 6-year-olds exploring in a playground. They'll go and do
Mhm.
dangerous would never have done before. It includes social connection, it includes gamification, so like joyful repetition, reward, and psychological safety. If you create an environment that triggers that, all the energy goes back to your prefrontal cortex. And your prefrontal cortex is responsible for creative thinking and problem solving and relationship building, all the stuff that the attitude that we need to have in this new world. So the reason it's so important that ServiceNow University is your playground for learning is it uses all of that science of play to create that environment where you feel safe to explore this new world.
That's very insightfully put. Just the whole idea that treating something as play frees up your analytical reasoning and processing capabilities. So you actually are more prone to take action on it rather than just kind of gets stuck in headlights.
Exactly. And it's pretty counterintuitive as well, because I think for a long time we've thought about work and play as two opposite things. And, ServiceNow is about making the world work. So how can we have this play state? But it turns out we've just got it wrong, because the opposite to work isn't play. There's big science, there's theorists in this play theory that say the opposite of work isn't play, it's depression. Because what happens is, if you're not in a play state and you're not in that exploration state, then you don't feel ready to explore and to try new things. So this isn't like playful, frivolous work. This is serious work. Thing that we all need to think about is, how do we create these safe spaces for our people to learn these new skills?
That's very interesting. So you're basically saying that when you're in a play state, a lot of the impetus is intrinsic, curiosity driven. So you follow your path, what you learn sticks with you. But in the absence of that, I can see how just monotonously doing something could just lead to depression, right? It's extrinsic and
Yeah. And it just leads to, it's just the opposite state. The opposite state where all the energy is pulled to like I said, the amygdala is a moment of fear, of like almost like paralysis in the moment. And what play state gives you is like forward motion. It gives you the optimism to move forward. And like I said, when we were talking earlier about what's more important, the environment, the person, this is where the environment is more important, because the person is ready for growth. The environment needs to be ripe for it. And that's what a playground for learning can create. But at the same time, it's unrealistic, though, to think that you can be in a play state all the time. So that's why ServiceNow University creates this world within a world. So you can get on with your day job and do that serious, repetitive work that you still do need to do, but then create magic circle. And there's whole theories around this. There's a very famous theorist called Johann Huizinga who talked about this concept of a magic circle. So you create this magic circle, which is a safe space where different rules apply, rules where you can fail fast, where you can trip over, where you can try over and over again without embarrassment. And that's what ServiceNow University does. And we leverage technology to make that possible. AI coaches, AI feedback, all of those sorts of things that create that safe space.
Very interesting. And just to understand, Jayney, if I was a employee in this playground inside ServiceNow University, and maybe AI will get there at some point, is it a space where, let's say I'm in the marketing team, ideally it would simulate a marketing campaign that I can run with AI, and it'll tell me how the audience is reacting to that campaign. Am I roughly in the right direction?
Yeah. So exactly those sorts of things. So we ran something for sales, for example, so for our whole sales where they could simulate a customer experience. And actually, even better, we did that in team environments as well. So you also get that social connection, which is so important. So you and me are on a team with 3 other people, and we're pitching against hundreds of other teams to solve a customer problem using our technology, using our teams to create that simulated play environment.
Perfect. Yeah, I totally see how that can be super valuable. Yeah, especially in sales and customer success kind of scenarios. There was, just reading up in advance of the session, I came across the other thing that's close to you, which is helping people learn in the line of work, in the flow of work.
Yeah.
And as kind of a education entrepreneur, and that's one of the reasons I became an entrepreneur, which is, I always thought when you teach people stuff, the top 5% will get it and they'll apply it. But then it's most effective when you can give them stuff almost templatized that or nudges at the point of work. Uh,
Yeah.
I would love to understand how you're thinking about it. How does it manifest day to day?
Yeah, so I think I'm very, very passionate about at the point of need, and making
Mm,
sure that we are in the flow of work. I think
yeah.
often we can miss is like contextualization, particularly in certain roles. Like I often talk about sales because it's one of the areas of training where you have to be the most agile, but there is
Mm,
it's very real that the requirements I have as a salesperson in the UK talking to utilities is very, very different to a seller in the US talking to a utilities company. The skills I need to
mhm,
have, the language I need to talk. So it's so important that you get that context right and at the right time, because the other thing is that if you don't actually use the skill quickly after learning it, the forgetting curve is real and you'll have forgotten it all within 24 hours. So,
yeah.
um, so how that manifests in real life is we try and keep as much of the training as close to the learner as we possibly can. So
Mhm,
we talk a lot about ServiceNow University being kind of the consumer facing thing. So as you as
mhm,
the learner, what you're interfacing with, but we also have a lot of tools in the background to make sure that our learning partners can make sure they can deliver learning in the moment. So there
mhm,
are experts embedding it in the technology. So we're seeing certain behaviors happen within our technology. It looks like you're struggling with this right now. Have you tried this piece of learning? Here's a knowledge article. Here's a quick video. We have an AI
mhm,
learning coach. A learning coach that's driven by AI is obviously an LLM that you can have conversations with all the time. That means in the context of that, you can solve the problem. So we do that. But then we also do some real life stuff too. So if we're seeing a trend happen in our numbers or performance, then we can quickly within hours turn on a training session we have things called collabs, which are peer-to-peer learning. So we can do that in the flow of work in the moment. So it's both technology and human that we leverage in the flow of work.
Today, I assume the way learning works is there is kind of a notion of a static repository of content that
Mhm.
users use. And with the holy grail of education and AI hopefully delivering is personalization, adaptive learning, do you see a point where content is generated at the point of consumption
Yeah.
specifically? What will that world look like? Will we move away from a world of LMS? Like, what will that look like?
I mean, I think we're on a fascinating journey right now, and I think the world's moving under our feet all the time in
Mhm,
terms of where we go.
mhm,
100% see a world where learning will be generated at the point of need. I'm actually not. Will I see that? I am already seeing that in various
yeah.
different ways of providing that, and even actually the LLMs themselves. So if you have a conversation with Claude or ChatGPT or Gemini today, they can do a pretty good job in building you some enablement that's at the point of need in that moment. I
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
think I think there's a couple of things that we need to continue to look at. The difference between knowledge acquisition and skill building. There's a slight difference in those two things. So we tend to use the same techniques right now to
Mhm,
acquire as we do to build a skill. And I think acquiring knowledge can start to look much more generative and personalized, as in, I'm going to respond. I need this particular piece of information right now. Give me this particular piece of information.
mhm,
I think that can become much more AI driven. I think skill building, like actual building brain muscle um around new skills, building new behaviors. I think we continue to need to think about what that will look like, and then how we assess those skills. Like, what does performance-based assessment look like, so that we can make sure that those skills are embedded so we can make business decisions. Like, I want to know what skills Binny has so I can put you into a particular job in the future. I think there's still work that we need to do in that
mhm,
area. But I strongly believe that we will we talk a lot about learning paths. I think there is a world where you think about assessment paths versus learning paths, and there is more of a respect for learning that you've gathered over time versus in the moment.
Very interesting. And as you kind of go down this path of executing on your vision of the simulations, the in the flow learning, and the personalization, what would you say are your top burning problems or challenges that you wish somebody solved?
So I think we are solving them, but it continues to be hard work and take time. So data, any professional will tell you that data continues to be the biggest problem. We've got data sitting in various different parts of the organization at various different types of quality, and making sure that you build we'd like to talk about a performance signature. So a signature around the individual, that we understand what all their skills are, what their performance is in the context of the job that they're doing today. I think is something that continues to be a big challenge for us. We're incredibly lucky because we work for a fantastic business that has our own platform, which has our own data fabric and processing power that through Raptor and all those sorts of things that we can build this sort of thing. But it continues to be, there is all the standard challenges that you have with data. So I think data continues to be something that we need to have even more focus on, and more intelligence around, making sure that we have accurate information on our learners and the business that they're doing. So I think that's one thing. The thing, we've kind of touched on it, the technology is just changing so quickly all the time. And one of the biggest challenges is making sure that you are not in some sort of state of paralysis, of decision-making paralysis, because there are so many options in front of you that we make some decisions on the right technology and start using it, and then also don't miss out on the latest and greatest pieces of innovation that are happening.
Yeah, makes sense. The other thing I was curious about is you mentioned about AI coaches, right? Are these basically like just personalized mentors that's kind of sitting next to you or looking over your shoulders, whom you can ask a technical question to if you're stuck on something, or it's slightly more broad enterprise-wide compliance policies? Where do these coaches fit in?
We have a combination of them. So we have we use our own technology. So Now Assist is our own AI, and we have our My Assist, which is our internal version, which could answer any of those questions. So anything on it's thousands of cases, knowledge articles. It's hugely created massive efficiencies around that reduced case management in order to use My Assist. But then we also use external LLMs. We're a completely open platform, so we have all of the usual players that we leverage internally in a safe environment. So that happens enterprise wide. We then also have a tool that we use, which is an adapted tool for our sales audience. So sales, which means that they can access all of their customer information in a safe environment, get support to in readiness for customer meetings, for internal resources, etc. And then we have one associated with learning as well. So we have a learning coach that overlays ServiceNow University, which is there as like your right-hand tutor as you go through the programming that you can ask any question on the whole time.
Right. Okay. Fantastic. And the other thing I was curious about, Jayney, is that, and this is not specific to ServiceNow, just more broadly with AI and learning and talent management, right? What do you think could go wrong? What are your thoughts on that?
So I think there is some very standard stuff, like, are we doing the right things on ethics and security and all of the things that we know are risks around compliance and ethics and security and safety of the information that we're using, and we're doing that responsibly. So I think there are real areas that can go wrong. And it's really interesting, if we've done a lot of surveys and research with our teams, and it's a concern everyone's has. So the fear of doing wrong is something that we all have, and I think that's holding people back. So what could go wrong is either doing it and getting it wrong, or the fear of getting it wrong stopping people just doing it. So I think they're like two areas. But there is a bigger piece here, which I think is when you look at early in careers and youth talent,
Hmm.
how do we make sure that we are building the skills of tomorrow, that
Yeah.
are you can use AI in the future? Because we are seeing a trend of the tasks that used to be done by all of us when we were training up. So when we were all researchers, or we were all, being someone's number two and we were running around getting information, so many senior individuals are using AI to do that. How do we make sure that we're building future talent, future leaders, when
Mhm.
that work isn't being used anymore? And I think that's something is talent professionals we have an eye on right now to say, are we building it? Are there opportunities for young people coming into work? Number one. And number two, are we making sure we're building this young talent up to be leaders of the future and we're not missing that opportunity?
Interesting. I mean, yeah, that sounds like a very important problem to actually address. Um, and a follow-up question on that is, to solve that problem as to how are you going to prepare the workforce of the future, do you think that is that a content problem, or is that a matching ability to organizational goal problem? Because it seems like if you had to train these people for a future, and that future is changing every 8 weeks,
Yeah.
how do we even know what content to build? Like, where do we start that?
I mean, I think it's an
Yeah.
excellent question. So I think
Mhm.
I think it's all through, it's those two things. And I think there's another piece too. So we
Mhm.
do need to make some strong, um, needs to strategically say, I think we can make some good, sensible bets to say that we think there's going to be growth in these areas and declines over here, and we need to retrain people into that. And that will help
Yeah.
us with content, definitely.
Mhm.
It's very
Yeah.
functional, specific content that says, I want to move people from A to B and retrain them in that world. So I think that helps
Yeah.
with content. I think there's another piece which says is, what are the foundational human skills that we need to be training that help you
Mhm.
get whatever this work needs to be?
Mhm.
So critical thinking, constructive curiosity are a couple of things, like the ability to connect with humans, build
Mhm.
relationships, stand situations, situational analysis. There are these areas of deep human skills that we know are going to be important for the future because they're what you are uniquely human. Um, so we think that they're things that we need to continuously to build skills on. I think that helps with our content development.
Others who are listening to this podcast, right? What career tips would you have for them, um, that you've kind of collected over your fantastic, career trajectory that you've had? If somebody wanted to follow something similar, what tips and guidance uh, would you ask them to?
So I think it's lovely for you to say I've had a great career. I can tell you it's been ups and downs along the way,
Has
but
it? It doesn't
it's
seem that way, but
it's been a really good, it's been a brilliant, exciting journey. So I think
Mhm.
there's things. I think number one is knowing yourself. Like
Mhm.
I talked about that moment that I had, and I can literally remember that day where
Yeah.
I walked into a new world where I thought I was going to be full of the guy at in that Croydon cash and carry was called Mo, and I thought I was going to walk into a world where I saw tons of Mo's and all these great individuals, and I didn't. And I was like, I have to change this world. There has to be a world where there's opportunity for everyone. That really helped give
Mhm.
me a purpose, like a personal purpose of something I wanted to change. It really helped me know what I wanted. And I think sometimes we're all looking for someone to give us that answer, and we're not going to find it anywhere than in ourselves. And I think that's the number one thing I'd say is figure out what makes you happy. There's a really
Mhm.
beautiful piece of work by Malcolm Gladwell around the hedgehog effect, which he did in Good to Great. It was like the concept of, for businesses to succeed, they need to figure out what the best in the world at, what they're very passionate about, and where there's economic value. And you need to do that for yourself, for your career. Work out what you're best in the world at, where you truly have got a unique skill, where you love doing it, like my passion to find more opportunities for Mo, what you're truly passionate about. And then the third one is so critical. Where is their economic value? And if you can get those things right, you're going to have an illustrious career. And that third one of economic value, you have to be willing to pivot and change on the whole time, because the world's changing right now. AI is where it is, and it's probably going to be there for a while. So if you can build skills in that area, that will help. So I think that's the number one thing I'd say. And then I think my favorite type of training, I was given great advice years ago to do improv, like comedy improvisation training, because what that gives you is the principle of holding tightly and clinging lightly. And the idea is that you hold tight to the narrative that's going on around you, what other people are saying, but you cling on lightly to what you think is true, and those projects that you think those matters, and those products that you've built. You don't worry about that. You hold tightly to the narrative that's going on around you. And I think about my career, I've held really tightly to the narrative and been pretty relaxed about letting go of things that haven't worked out, or stuff I've invested tons of time in that didn't go anywhere. You have to be cool with that and enjoy the ride and be about creating an amazing show. And that's what I've learned from improv. So I'd say there are a couple of things that I'd recommend people do. And then lastly, build a network of people around you that give you an ounce more courage than fear. Because I think the most important thing in career development is just taking those risks, like taking that step when there's loads of doors that are a little bit open for you, but people often we're too scared to step through. So have those people around you that, you know, if it doesn't work out, if you take an opportunity and it fails, that they're willing to catch you, then you have that ounce more courage than fear, and you'll be all right.
I don't want to say anything. There's so much good stuff here. I want to make sure you're fully done. You're done. Okay. There's so much good stuff here. I just want to make sure I quickly summarize this. So the first one is the intersection of what you're passionate about, what you're good at, and where the economic value is. That is the first one. The second one is stick to the narrative very strongly, but kind of be flexible with kind of the implementations of it. And you know that is so profound, and it's so much applicable to me as an entrepreneur as well, which is be obsessed about the problem you're solving. Just ignore all the solutions you're building if they don't work out well, but just stick to the problem.
Right.
Yeah. And the third one of courage is, again, you know, super helpful. Two people, everything can be equal, but one person have more courage, and that just changes the trajectory of that person.
Yeah. And it only needs to be a tiny bit. I think people see people take career risks and try new things, and they think, oh my goodness, they're completely fearless. No one's fearless. We're all sitting with our own fear. You just have to have a little tiny bit more courage than you have fear, and then it's okay. And for me, I found that you only get that if you have people around you who love and support you, and finding those people is so important. So yeah. And I think the improv thing, I honestly, I could not recommend it more. If you watch improvisation comedy, you'll see magic happen when people follow the narrative, and they'll have come on stage thinking they were going to say something completely different. But the best shows are where you just really hold tightly to the fact you're there to entertain people, and then it will be amazing. And like you as an entrepreneur, you know where you're trying to get to, but just be cool about the plot. It's going to be fine. Just stick to the narrative.
Brilliant. This is fantastic stuff, Jayney. It's an amazing way to end this podcast. Super helpful insights, both on learning and just practical career tips for all of us. Thank you so much for doing this.
My absolute pleasure. It's been fantastic talking to you. Thank you. It's a gift to talk about this. So thanks so much.